up and we had 23 yes. Okay. I don't know. Oh my gosh. Well, I know what I'm doing first. Before we proceed further, I'd like to acknowledge that our college is located on the native land of the Hahamangna tribe of the Tongva Nation. Please take a moment to remember those who came before us. This is also a time to remember the urgency of now and the Black Lives Matter movement call to action in response to the countless BIPOC lives lost due to state's violence and police brutality. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge that members of the Armenian community are hurting as well. With that, I'm pretty sure our first order of business is going to be to approve the minutes from October 26th. And are there any corrections or amendments to the minutes from October 26th? Not seeing any. Sheila.
I had one minor correction, Matt. The ICER was spelled I-C-E-R instead of I-S-E-R.
Cool. I will make that change. It got past all of us, didn't it? Well, not all of us, obviously. Okay, then we will make that change. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? Okay, then unless there is an objection, then we will approve those by unanimous consent. Or is there any objection to approving them by unanimous consent? All right, then the minutes are approved and we are on to the next thing. And I didn't have my agenda in front of me. And so I did actually do some stuff out of order here. And so I'll just back up. Pursuant to Executive Order N 2920, dated on March 17th, 2020, and signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, we are modifying the way the public will participate in academic senate meetings during the fall 2020 semester. As part of its response to the ongoing coronavirus outbreak, the Academic Senate provides members of the general public the opportunity to make comment on agenda items or items not on the agenda. Public comment can be submitted to me, and submissions will be read aloud in their entirety at the public meeting. Such submissions must be received prior to the start of the meeting, and the guidelines for the time and quantity of public comment remain in effect. And I don't have any emails. Are there any members of the public or anybody who would like to make a public comment at this time? Okay. And then I'm just going to keep putting this message into the chat, asking folks, we'll just keep doing this every meeting, folks to click on the green yes in the participant window so that we know that we have quorum for the duration of the meeting. Also lets us know how many votes we're expecting when we do vote. Okay, then we are now on to our consent. I know I have a PowerPoint deal going on here. We're on to our constituency reports. First, we have President Whitworth.
Hi. How's everybody doing? Short update. Let's see. First thing is we are currently working on additional COVID issues, particularly in regarding training requirements for winter and spring, and that should be finalized very, very, very soon. Let's see. The next thing is there's a general meeting on Thursday at noon through Zoom. And that will be sent out. I believe it may have already been sent out. So if you're a member, you're more than welcome to attend that. Additionally, there'll be a special part-time benefits meeting at noon on Friday. So if you're interested in joining the cause for part-time benefits, that will be on Friday at noon, hosted by Vice President James Keller. And that is my update.
Okay, thank you. Adjunct faculty, Bevel.
Yes, hi everyone. Two main updates that I want to provide. The first, I did try to set up a informal meeting to address our Senate goals last Friday. Unfortunately, it seemed that the time did not work for many of the people interested. So Professor Ruiz is helping me create a poll so that we can get a time that works better for everyone. However, myself, Professor Ruiz, and Professor Wilbur did have an initial discussion about achieving our goals of improving the reputation of PCC in the African American community, as well as increasing our African American population from 3.8 to 10%. Just some of the things that we discussed is really creating a culture of inclusion at PCC for these students. Having cross-cultural mixers, we think is a great idea for the future. We also talked about recruitment at PCC. So what does recruitment currently look like, and how can we improve and focus on these demographics? We also talked about working with the Upward Bound as well as the Freeman Center. So these are things that I'm sure that will be discussed in our second meeting coming up in the near future. And I just came out of the Adjunct Faculty Issues Committee meeting. And just to give you some highlights from that meeting, we discussed adjunct faculty union representation. Again, I'm trying to work with our union to have designated spots for adjunct faculty to increase our representation. We also trying to be part of the negotiation team moving forward. And many adjunct faculty feel like we've been left out of that process. So we're hoping to work with the union much more closely. We also discussed full-time overload. I know there was recently a moratorium at Santa Monica College in terms of full-time faculty overload and how that affects adjunct faculty course load. So maybe it can be an agenda item for us in the future here. We talked about Assembly Bill 897 that should increase adjunct faculty load from 67 to 85%. And we also talked about inviting the new diversity officer to our next Adjunct Faculty Issues Committee meeting to discuss strategies increasing the ethnic diversity of adjunct faculty, especially within the African diaspora. I think currently we're only at 6% adjunct faculty from the African diaspora at PCC, and we know that could definitely be improved in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Classified Senate.
Good afternoon. Yes. Just a quick report. So Classified Senate had its fall general meeting on October 30th. It was a great update to discuss where the Senate is and some of its goals, and also engage in discussion with our classified colleagues about some of the topics that are coming up in the near future. Also, in our last meeting, we did discuss at length what the role of a classified staff member is in shared governance. I think it's definitely good to look at this as some of the work in our other standing committees throughout campus, not only with Academic Senate, but also Management Association, of how we can have more active engagement. So I think it's definitely good to have that discussion. That's all.
Cool, thank you. Next, we have associated students, and filling in for our usual representative is the president, Mackenzie.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome.
Couple of updates from associate students. We had a very successful Spirit Week last week. So we had 2 drive-up in-person events where students can come and get little giveaway packages, and they could use it for events that were happening throughout the week. On Monday, we hosted a virtual watch party event. So students were able to enjoy some blankets, chargers, and snacks, and just lots of other little goodies. Similar thing on Wednesday. Overall, the whole week was pretty successful. We were able to hand out giveaways to over 100 students, and that's the most interaction that we've seen since we started doing these socially distanced events. So I'm very excited to keep doing these in the future and keep reaching out to students. Even virtually, we've been finding that a lot of students are starting to notice that we are doing these events, and they're coming more and more to our new Discord, which we just opened up, which you all are actually able to be a part of. I can send out a link to Christina so she can distribute it to you all, but we do have roles for staff and admin if you all would like to be part of that and engage with some students on another platform. Now that we are officially a full board, we will be visiting the board Board of Trustees tomorrow and be doing a proper introduction so you can meet everybody who is on this board and who you will be working with throughout the year. So I'm very excited for my board to meet all of you and just do some great work throughout the year and work with our students. That is all that I have to report today. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Next up, the Management Association, Tito.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us. It's funny, I guess, I'm not sure if it's a holiday, but short report from me as well. At our last Management Association business meeting, managers discussed our local and national elections and what's happening in Armenia. And the emphasis for all three check-in items was to show how we can and should support our students, our staff, and each other. We also discussed our board policies and administrative procedures, as well as having a report out on the various college council standing committees. And lastly, management, along with our staff and faculty, are all working hard to complete the annual update that is due this Friday as an important component of the integrated planning process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have officers' reports. And the first of those is mine. I'm sure I have a slide for this. A group of faculty, deans, and students will be getting together to discuss academic honesty and issues related to the use of Proctorio. The thinking is that faculty need to know what students are thinking regarding Proctorio, and students need to be aware of the importance of academic honesty. The idea being to inform decision makers about what the kind of general will is moving forward. Faculty hiring priorities committee met and prioritized, they got 16 hiring requests from 12 areas, and they did their prioritization, and then they met with Dr. Androgenis, Dr. Juni, and Dr. Olivo. And during that meeting, we were all in agreement on the very top position, which is a nursing position, so that they can continue to be accredited. They have to have a full-time faculty member not to lose their accreditation. And then the second position that we are definitely going to fly is a Black student success counselor. And as far as the other 14, we put them in order, and the president put them in order, but nothing is going to, other than those two positions, the nursing and the Black student success counselor, nothing's going to be flown until at least January, if any are going to be flown at all. When I asked Dr. Androgenis, if you can look in your crystal ball, can you tell us how many hires we're going to have? She turned it right around and asked me, can you look in your crystal ball and tell me how many retirements we're going to have? My only response was touche. The deal is we are, as far as our faculty obligation number, which we call FON, F-O-N, we are 16 and some change above FON. In other words, there's a number of full-time faculty that we're required to have by the state of California before we get penalized financially for it. We could have 16 retirements and still not be in trouble for FON. So there's that. I saw a couple of hands. One was Terry. Okay, Bevel.
Yes, Mr. Hennis. Now that we are thinking about hiring again, do we need to now discuss the hiring policies within Senate and the changes that we would like to see moving forward?
Well, I don't know that I characterize it as we're thinking about hiring again, because we are looking at a really, really lean thing. However, that said, it's on our agenda for today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So other than those two, the rest of the positions are in a holding pattern. I attended the very first virtual fall plenary for the Academic Senate of California Community Colleges. I tell you what, if you haven't sat in webinar style meetings for 3 days straight, you're really missing out, man. There was lots of focus on inclusion, diversity, equity, and anti-racism, and they actually form an acronym, IDEA. And we voted on a bunch of resolutions. Excuse me, the third day was not webinar style. There was voting involved. It was great. Virtual voting. with folks who are as good with technology as we've seen on our campus. It was a spectrum. Anyway, if anybody is interested in the resolutions that were passed, shoot me an email. I will send you the ones that were passed. And that does not conclude my report. So there are a couple of just housekeeping things that I want to say. I knew that I was going to have to repeat this, and I'm going to have to repeat it in future meetings as well. I keep dropping this message in the chat about if you are a rep or an adjunct representing your division, I need you to click on the green participant, green yes in the participant window. That is how we will all know that we still have quorum in case we need to make any action, take any actions. The other is it regards the chat. And actually this is in response to an email that I received after the last meeting. Talene Seropian delivered a courageous and heartfelt message to the Academic Senate. And because of how I have the chat set up for our Zoom meetings, she was not able to receive private messages of support. And I know that they came in. I know people wanted to, excuse me, I don't know that they came in, but I know people wanted to deliver private messages of support or public messages of support for that matter. And there was a perception that I have chat set up the way I have it set up. That is, you can message me only because of issues of decorum or civility. That is not the case at all. The reason that I have chat set up the way I have it set up is that this is a Brown Act meeting and all of our verbal exchanges need to be accessible by the public who are watching on YouTube. And so chat cannot be used to communicate during this public meeting. That's why chat is set up the way it is. It has nothing to do with decorum or civility or anything like that. And I realized that it was brought to my attention after the fact that it made it so that it inhibited people from being able to issue messages of support. But please know that the sentiment was out there. Okay, that is my report. And we are going to move on to the Vice President's report. Does the Vice President have a report?
I was just going to say that I'll have a couple of updates from our subcommittees.
Cool, great. Our secretary is in interviews, and so we are without a secretary today, which means I am greatly multitasking, but I seem to be doing all right so far. We do have a treasurer's report.
Thank you. So I would like to read the numbers in. As of October 20th, 2020, our total balances for checking and savings were $20,887.30. As of November 9th, they were $21,174.51 for a net increase of $287.21.
I believe you have more for your report as well.
I do. At Dr. Hennis's request, I worked with Michael Ehrig from the web office to add an electronic donation form to our Senate website. So please share with all of the faculty in your areas that they can now go to the Academic Senate page. And if you can see on the top right side, there's a red button that says contribute. And this will allow anyone on campus to contribute to either the Senate General Fund or the Senate Scholarship Fund for students. Thank you.
So these used to be in the form of little half slips or quarter slips or something that were distributed physically. And this is in response to the fact that we can't be in the same room. So there's that. Thank you for your report. Back to the PowerPoint here. Folks, I just want to point out I'm doing a phenomenal job right now. Committee share outs, we have college-wide committees here. And I've just lost that phenomenal job. Okay, Institutional Effectiveness Committee reviews program reviews, and on the basis of what they see in those program reviews, they form broad recommendations to the college. Since they are a college council subcommittee, I suppose that they form those recommendations and forward them off to college council, but I decided to share with you what they are. Encourage and increase the use of OER textbooks in all courses. Continue to develop full 0-degree programs. Ensure that faculty are fully trained in online pedagogy before they are permitted to teach in the online environment. That's for normal times. I'm going to go out on a limb on that one. Train all faculty in the use of Canvas, the college's LMS, learning management software, as a pedagogical tool. And then so that's for faculty, but the college needs to provide appropriate resources and support to ensure that all online course materials are accessible, and we mean ADA compliant with them. Okay. So those are broad recommendations that the IEC has formed based on probably the last year of their work. Health and Safety Standing Committee has been meeting for like a year and a half now, and they updated their mission statement. They reviewed their emergency preparedness and safety plan. They have a standing COVID-19 update item or standing item. They're working on a plan for in the event that campus needs to be closed, like it was recently during the poor weather or poor air quality situation. And there's a note to encourage everybody to get the flu shot this season. We don't want, I don't know what they're calling it, but a dual pandemic. I know there's a nice catchy name for it, but get your flu shot if you haven't already done it. And then and contact the co-chair, Jason Vasquez, or Josh Fleming or Kathy Kataris. Those are our Senate representatives on this committee, if you would like to share any concerns or issues that should be brought to the committee. So that's the Health and Safety Committee. The OER Committee, it has an anti-racism training opportunity with OER/open resources focus. And I've been asked to share it with the Academic Senate. There are limited seats. Interested faculty need to apply by November 20th, and there is a stipend attached to this. If I didn't already send it out, then I will send it out to you. I don't know what I've sent out today. I've been sending out a lot of stuff to the faculty. Yeah. The Outcomes Committee has held, we've had our first meeting, and we're looking at developing institutional learning outcomes. But right now, the closest thing we have is our general education outcomes, GEOs. And they aren't really currently being assessed very well, but also they leave out career and technical education, and they leave out anything that's non-instructional. We have outcomes on this committee that are not all necessarily student learning outcomes. There are broader, like student services as outcomes, that sort of thing. And so we're going to be looking at developing institution learning outcomes, ILOs, and discussing where GEOs fit in, if at all. So there's just a committee looking at outcomes, and they'll be doing their work, in the coming months. Strategic planning is going to begin looking at how we can measure metrics related to the educational master plan. And the idea is to set a baseline, see where we are, and then look for improvement. If we have an educational master plan and we have goals and strategies and tactics to carry out those, we should have a way of measuring whether those are happening. And part of how we're going to measure them are the annual updates. So I hope you're working on those. Those are due on Friday. I know, right? The Accreditation Standing Committee is actually my favorite report today. All constituent groups have approved the ICER, spelled with an S, not a C. And next it'll go to the Board of Trustees. I don't know if that'll be for tomorrow or for next month, because I didn't look that far into their agenda. Strategic Communications and Marketing, SCAM, Strategic Communications and Marketing, is preparing an accreditation training video. This is my favorite thing ever. People will be turned into cartoon characters for this training video. And it's to inform you all about the accreditation and what it's about, what it does, the value of it. And you all have not seen Crystal Colross as a cartoon, but when you do, it's just going to bring a smile to your face. A video is also being made to show the accrediting visiting team what the campus looks like. They won't be able to see it. And so they'll show, different buildings, not just empty rooms. They'll show like what it looks like now, but they'll also have some, we have stock footage of students on campus. So it'll look like we are actually a school that has people. An addendum needs to be written about how the college responded to COVID, and different groups are going to be responding, writing a paragraph here, a paragraph there. I'm going to ask you to help me with that, and that will show up later in this meeting. And I've just been told, since I'm still on accreditation, it's still relevant. It is on the board packet for tomorrow. I will credit that to Tito, who must have looked at the entire packet and probably didn't just look it up right now, so he knew something I didn't. And with that, we will move on to the next thing, which is Academic Senate subcommittees. I figure if you have any questions, you'll just raise your hands, and otherwise I'll just move on. With this, I pass it to our Vice President, Veronica.
Okay, so we had I got some emails from people with updates. So the Learning Assessment Committee has created and rolled out training modules for department chairs this term. And they're currently starting a dialogue about clarifying what PCC's mutually established procedures for assessment looks like. And they're evaluating the membership on that committee. Previously, SLO leads were required to be on the committee, but with the role being retired, they have more positions available. So they're going to add to their agenda this discussion about membership. And they won't be sure until spring what their needs are. The Professional Development Subcommittee has been working on revising their mission statement, and they're planning on setting goals this coming week. The Ed Policies, I guess, is we're going to be putting people on that committee, and they're going to be evaluating maybe shifting their chair. So we'll hear about that in the future, I think. And then the Nominations and Elections Committee wrote, and they have met twice now, and they're working on organizing an online election and sharing candidate statements through Canvas. They plan to be at our Senate meeting on November 23rd to give an update on election, and they would like one more member to that committee because currently I believe they have an even number. So I think they're looking for an odd number of members. So if you're interested in being in the Nominations and Elections Committee, I can encourage you to fill out the form. Thank you.
That form you can get to by going to just PCC's web page, type in Academic Senate. You'll see a link to committees. Click on that. Click on the committee that you like. And then there's a button that says volunteer. As was said, we're appointing 2 new people to the Educational Policies Committee, along with a couple of other committees. And this is consent item C. It's item number H. If there are no objections, we will go ahead and take these by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to approving these 4 names by unanimous consent? Seeing none, we have approved those by unanimous consent. That motion carries. Next up, we have guided pathways, our standing information item. And actually, you know what? These 2 items are about to roll into each other. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Miriam. Hi, Miriam.
Hi. I have a quick update for guided pathways. The program mapping team is going to start reaching out again to faculty and deans to get another set of eyes and more organized on the new mapper. They released a new version of it. It looks a little bit cleaner. It's a little easier to scroll through now, but we'll be coming through the divisions and doing sort of a roadshow with the folks who are directly involved so that we can get more eyes on the program maps as they continue to evolve. The other piece that we're updating is training materials for PCC Connect. Connect has a lot more functionality these days, and especially in terms of referrals. Our personal counseling office now has a referral in there that faculty can use to refer students directly to their services. And just as a reminder, we have a social services referral as well. So please go ahead, if you do use the tool, if you can take a look at what referrals we have available. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But that list is going to continue to grow as we have more and more services coming on board through this system. A lot of students are going to start being able to make appointments with these various services, and outreach is happening through the tool as well. So that's that update.
Cool. And so the next item, and again, Miriam's going to take care of it or address it. It's the Because Black Lives Matter agenda item that we have, a standing agenda item. And we, two meetings ago, we looked at the student equity plan. And then last meeting, without any sort of preamble or explanation, just said, hey, are you interested in these things that I selected out of the student equity plan? And after that, we the executive committee met with Miriam and talked about basically an information campaign. And this came up during the last meeting as well, like, a little bit of information about these things would be good. We as faculty understand our classrooms, we understand our instruction. Some of us have some understanding about some of the guided pathways work related to guided entry, career communities, guided exit. There are 5 pillars that we have. And so today, Miriam's going to share with you some information relating to guided entry. And ultimately, my goal isn't to educate I should have started the timer, to educate the entire academic senate about everything. But when you hear about these things, if you have an interest in them, then I would hope that you would reach out to me, reach out to Miriam, and let us know of your interest. And then we'll connect you with things that you've heard about that seem interesting to you. Maybe this is a better way to go. So with that, I do have the timer going. We have 15 minutes for this item. And she needs me to let her share her screen. So I'm going to do that. And it's all you, Miriam.
Oh, right on. Hi again. So I've got a little bit of time to talk about a very complex process that a lot of our students have to go through before they hit day 1 in your classes. And so Tolene and I worked on an overview of the guided entry process. And as we were going through it, are we all seeing my?
Yep.
Thanks. As we're going through it this weekend and last week, we started to list out all of the bits and pieces that students can engage in before the first day of class. So I would say it kicks off with the application, but that's not true. We have a lot of outreach that happens before students can apply. For the fall is the biggest application period, and then students can apply pretty much year round for PCC. And so we have outreach efforts heavily in the high schools in the fall term, and they do a lot of events. Our local high schools are visited once a month by our outreach team, and then the FYE outreach team takes over at some point. And in those visits, they're informational. They do workshops. They do application workshops. Sometimes we do some financial aid work. So it depends on what the high school's needs are. So there's a lot of work that's happening on the outreach side with the high schools. We also go and visit high schools that invite us that are not in our district. And there are also some visitations to some community sites. So that's all happening. And then in December, the application kicks off. And so I'm just going to go through the fall guided entry cycle, just so that you kind of get a sense of the entire thing. It's a little different for, well, it's not different anymore. Every cycle of application kind of has these opportunities for students to engage with the college. And I'm calling them opportunities mainly because very few of the things on this list have to happen. There are only three things that students have to do before they get to your classrooms on the first day, and that is to apply, activate their Lancer point, and register for classes. And so, but we have all of these other opportunities to get students to be guided through what courses to take, supporting them through any of the challenges that happen. So sometimes students will submit an application and it not get cleared for a variety of reasons. There is paperwork for our concurrent and dual enrollment students that has to happen. But all throughout each of the steps that they have to follow, we kind of have them. Column one is the two columns are in sort of the order that we would prefer students complete the activities. We try to build and scaffold information because we try not to overload our students with with too much information. Otherwise, it gets lost in the process. I would really encourage you to check out the FYE website for a clear, like, step-by-step how to get to college, to get to PCC. And a lot of the steps here are very much on the FYE side, since they're the majority of our applicants. And there's a lot of focus on FYE, but we also have students who come in with transcripts from other colleges. So we have students who attend, like, for example, Cal State LA, they get dismissed, they come to us, try to fix their GPAs or whatever. So, and students coming to us from other community colleges, students coming to us for personal enrichment, students coming to us who are wanting to do their prerequisite courses for, like, medical school or physician assistant school. So, and we have students who go directly into our allied health programs. And so this kind of gives you a scope of what the complications of our entry process is. I know there's been a lot of conversation in this space about our outreach to various populations of students. And that's something that we do need to work on. We always are trying to improve on our processes. And so that's just something to kind of put a pin in as this conversation continues to happen in this space. So FYE, our first year experience program, formerly was a smaller program called Pathways. Now it's Pathways FYE, and it serves all students who are new to college and new to PCC. And that is a team of folks who were the Pathways folks, and now our Pathways FYE team have developed step-by-step onboarding processes for their students. So FYE Open House, they offer pre-registration workshops, the registration workshops. And through those workshops, they handle all the things having to do with holds or questions about registration, questions about classes. We have 5 FYE counselors at this point. And so there really is a robust team trying to help our students who are new to college really get onboarded and go through this very guided entry process. But again, I do want to emphasize that these things are not mandatory. They're completely optional for students. And one of the biggest carrots that we have to have them engage in these is to offer them priority registration. This year, we have about 2,800 students who took us up on that offer. So they completed their online orientation. They got new student counseling done, which means that they had an abbreviated ed plan that guides them with what courses they need to take for their first semester, so that when they get to registration in July, they know what to take. We talk them through their placements in math and English. We talk to them a bit about their major. And then in JAM, which is the third piece that they need to do for priority registration, they get a little bit of a taste of career exploration, identity development, and it's a curriculum that's evolved over the years that's really catering to making sure that students hit the ground running when they come to us in the fall. If anyone has questions throughout this whole thing, please feel free so that I can take a breath, I guess. So Matt, if you can let me know if anyone has any questions. All the while, so now we're at
We do have a hand up.
what's that?
We do have a hand up.
Okay.
Bevel.
Hi, Bevel.
Yes, hi, Miriam. Thanks for all your great work. I guess one of my questions is when the outreach team goes to the high schools, how much of that recruitment is focused on recruiting African-American students? And what type of support or what additional resources do you think the outreach team needs in order to achieve the Senate goal that we've identified?
I think that's an awesome question that I definitely don't have the answer to because I'm not in the day-to-day operations of the outreach team. So something that we can definitely bring back to Tamika and her team. And also, I don't know, Tito, do you know if Angie and Jeanette, do you want to speak to their process?
Yeah, one of the reasons I asked the question is that I think historically, the work of recruiting African-American students has been placed in Ojima. And I think they have limited resources. I think they only have one full-time person who's able to go to these high schools and recruit African-American students. And I feel like if we divert more resources there, we can try to address this ongoing issue of the low percentage of African-American students.
So if I may, yes. One of the tools that we use is exactly Angie, Jeanette, but as Ujima is a pathway, so they have the support of our direct outreach team, as well as that of the college, again, within the FAFSA squad itself, and within other personnel. You're absolutely right, and Ujima has a smaller group within themselves, but they're actually part of a bigger team. And in that aspect, we absolutely go out of direct support. I mean, it's a little challenging right now, but again, that it's as a group, we've definitely actually had a lot more students of color this year, for the simple fact that that's one of the targeted things that we have as a program as well, in making sure that we're touching all of our high schools in the district and out of district, because most of our students come from, but also within the actual community. That's something that we're working directly with Tamika and the outreach office to do more of community related programs to with our parents and community members to encourage them to have their children come to PCC.
I'll go ahead and acknowledge Tito.
Sorry.
No, it's not you, it's Tito.
I called on him. No,
it's fine.
Okay, any other questions right now? Okay, so again, the everything at this point after application kind of gets nuanced depending on what the students have. If they have transcripts, we need them to clear their prerequisites and things like that. So there's a lot of business that needs to get taken care of before registration can begin. That business, sometimes with the stress of getting your residency fixed, the stress of getting your transcripts fixed, the stress of getting your prerequisites cleared and things sort of takes a little bit away from the ability for students to really explore their major, explore the college, right? So when you're stuck in that, I have to fix my, or, if you have holds or things like that, getting those things cleared up takes away from the time that could be spent working with more counseling, working on trying to really explore the catalog, the schedule of classes. I don't know how many students actually do that for themselves, but a lot of that work does happen in counseling when they do get to us. And that's why the new student counseling group is so important, because it really can help set the stage for students learning how to navigate our catalog, our programs, our courses. And so during this entire time, on and off, we have to switch gears with counseling, whether we're doing guided entry work or just like express counseling to handle as many students as we can. There's a lot of stress around picking classes and registering for classes. And the other stressor here is students who complete their orientation, placement, an abbreviated education plan, which is the plan that has their first semester classes, they get a little bit of a bump in registration. They can register a little sooner. And so come registration time, a lot of students are looking to complete those steps so that they can improve on their registration priority. So that's just, again, what happens from December through to the first day of fall term.
That's
So
a lot,
some,
a lot of steps. That's a lot of stuff and a lot of steps.
it is. It's a lot. And not everybody has to complete all of those steps. As I said, like if you don't have transcripts, you're not needing to turn those things in. If you're over 17, there isn't a form that you have to submit. So, and this is where that customized service sort of comes in. We're trying to get a lot more targeted with the way that we talk to students and guide students through this so that we're not giving them information about things that they don't need. So for example, our international students, we're developing an international orientation for them. So that because a lot of the stuff we have, they don't do financial aid, they don't do things that the other groups of students might have to do or could qualify for. This is a list of some of our plans or some of our tools that we have to help guide students.
We have another hand up. We're going to go to Jennifer.
Sure.
Yeah, hi Miriam. I just have a quick question for you. I'm more familiar like when you guys get super busy during, walk-in face-to-face. How has it been online to get more access to you?
Sure. So we have express counseling. We've been using Starfish, which you all know as PCC Connect, for students to sign up for tutoring or for counseling. It's an online kiosk, and students sign up, and we take them basically one at a time. They're all phone calls. We had to deal with that for the summer term, for summer registration. So in spring, when everything shifted to online, we were getting everything in counseling, things that were or were not counseling. So that's when over the summer we tried a few things, and the solution that has manifested now is the virtual support center. So if a student needs to access counseling, they go through a triage through the virtual support center to make sure that the place that they need to go is actually counseling and not financial aid or admissions and records or a prerequisite issue that doesn't need to wait for a really long time to see a counselor. Numbers for you today. So far, we've had 256 visits through the virtual support center. I think Friday around 4 o'clock, we'd hit like 350. So the flow of students has been really steady since the VSC has come to be, but it's allowed students to get navigated to the spaces, to the support that they need, rather than waiting. It's like waiting in the wrong line. We wanted to start moving away from that and really trying to connect students. And a lot of the stuff can be taken care of by the VSC. They can help them troubleshoot some of the registration issues that have been coming up. And that's what we're seeing now for winter, and spring is going to get worse. So
I'm going to jump in now to say the noise you heard a moment ago is that was the time for this item, but I can see that you still have some stuff and we have a hand up. So is there a motion to extend?
So moved.
By how much?
Second.
How
I
long?
move to extend by 5 minutes.
Okay, is that what you second, Terry?
Yes.
Okay, then if there is no objection, we'll approve that by unanimous consent. Is there any objection? Then, as you were. Oh, motion carries. We're going to extend by 5 minutes. Okay, as you were.
Okay. So I'll go through these tools real quickly. Lancer Plan is our degree audit system. So students who access that can see where if their program of study is accurate, they get an audit. If you've ever been to a college that has a degree audit, it basically tells you what's done, what's not done. So students could potentially use that as a tool if they can't get to us in time. The website has become a lot more informative lately. We've been working and continue to try to refine it. Program maps are kind of a game changer here because, again, if a student can't see a counselor, wants to navigate and explore different majors and programs of study, at the very least, they're picking classes off of a map rather than like so they know what their GE's options are and things like that. It just helps them to get a little more guidance with regards to the courses that they are choosing to register for. Students can also access the catalog. We have a transfer tool that merges a lot of the ASSIST information if students are looking to transfer into particular majors. ASSIST itself is a tool. We have our general education patterns, and then if they're navigating career options, career coach is available to them at this time. So all of these things are available. If you want to learn more about them, please let me know. I'm happy to send any information that is requested.
Absolutely. Bevel, is your hand up still or again?
Yeah, I had another question.
Go ahead.
Yes. Again, thank you, Miriam, for all the wonderful work that you do. During the pandemic, when high school students are not in a physical classroom, how has the recruitment initiatives changed? And is there like a current brochure that we have that has a breakdown of cost and financial aid information that we can give to average people in the community? If we were to go out on our own and advocate to come to PCC, is there any information that we have currently that we can give to them as a guide?
For tuition and cost, the website has all the most up-to-date information at this point. I would definitely defer to that. In terms of brochures, I think we've been sending out emails where we can, trying to disseminate information through the high schools. We don't email or contact the students directly that are in high school right now. It kind of needs to go through their high school. And again, I'm gonna, okay, thanks, Tito. Angie, Jeanette, Alan, and a few counselors are visiting virtually. They're still doing visits out in the communities. We're still partnering very closely with the high schools. They still want us to come and speak with their students. So if you have very specific questions like this, more than happy to provide that information to you or connect you with someone who has it, like Tito. So who does this work? Our outreach, I mentioned FYE outreach because they're separate teams. The FYE team does a lot of work with our high school admissions and records. So much support from them. They're getting our students in and being able to register. The counseling department as a whole, like campus-wide, is working really, really hard to try to help students as much as we can. Within our capacity, of course. The virtual support center, like I mentioned, is a game changer. If you don't know where to send your students for support, please send them to the VSC. We will find a way to help them. The financial aid office, our prereq office, the empowerment programs, and the web team. This whole list is a giant network of folks that are really trying to help students get to classes on their first day. And so, I am missing, there's a whole layer of a network of care with our social services, our personal counseling, our Lancer Pantry. We have so many services that layer onto this. So if a student has things going on in their life, if they need financial support, whatever it is, they can still come through the VSC, and we will, like I said, connect them to the appropriate services that we have. And I think, and support, we can't do our work without data. So the Institutional Effectiveness Office, ITS, is helping us a lot with this. I'm almost done. This is the last slide. Admissions and records, financial aid, and in the instruction office, whenever our classes are getting low in terms of capacity, I've often been able to reach out to the Office of Instruction to help add classes or whatever the capacity might be for that term. So it really is a huge lift on the college to try to get students to register. We have a lot of great folks working on it. And so I'm very lucky to get to work with all of these people all the time.
Well, thank you so much. And if you, if any of that interested you, get in touch with either Miriam or myself. And I would encourage you to review the student equity plan. the highlighted areas in particular and see which of those seem to align with guided entry. And then you have kind of an idea if those are things that interest you. Before we get into the next item, it occurs to me that I need to have a record of our role here. And so I've opened up the chat so that everyone can, you don't have to, it won't come to me privately because that's a pain to read through in the notes. But if you would just type the word here into the chat, if you are a Senate rep or an alternate representing your division, then, and people are doing it privately anyway, whatever. Then we'll have a record of the role. Thank you very much, Miriam, for that information-packed presentation. Thank you for those slides. I think they were very helpful. And for all of your work that you do on this. It's tireless. I mean, I know she gets tired, but you don't hear her say it. And she's at it all the time, year-round, doing her work. It's great. And she's not the only one. As she said, there's an entire team of people that work to get people where they should be. Okay, next up, alternative grading. I'm going to deal with the chat here, host only. And we have 5 minutes for this agenda item. So folks, when we last met, we talked about alternative grading options. And maybe it was the time before. I don't remember, but we talked before. And after we spoke, there was more information that was shared with me. And the gist of it is that it, generally speaking, is not to students' advantage to automatically convert non-passing grades to an EW. There's also sentiment on the part of somebody in admissions and records that I am now actually changing a grade that an instructor has assigned without the instructor's consent. And so there are sticky wickets, I'm going to say. So after a couple of meetings, what we came up with, that's we being Academic Senate, Instruction, and Student Services, came up with this form. The long and short of it is students who receive a non-passing grade, a D or an F, can get that converted to an EW if they petition. Okay, we recognize that that does require a bit more work on the part of admissions and records, but it's also a way to make sure that students they're aware that there could be implications if they intend to transfer, and there could be implications if they're receiving financial aid. And so this is an encouragement for them to, if they are taking this option, talk with folks who have expertise in those areas. And I did see a hand go up. Lyman.
Yeah, hi. This is, as it says on the form, only for the fall.
This is for the fall.
Okay, and what's the statute of limitations on that? How long does a student have to do this?
I want to say like 2 weeks after grades are turned in, but Armando is here, Dean of Counseling. So go ahead, Armando.
So hi everyone. For the pass, no pass, the deadline is November 30th. For the EW, they have up to 2 years to submit.
Oh, I was a little off.
Okay, all right. So if they're going to do pass, no pass, they need to sort of do that in the next couple of weeks.
Correct.
Okay.
So that is here. And I will say that pass, no pass, in the spring, it was extended to students who were enrolled in classes for which pass, no pass was not indicated in the course outline of record. I believe the same is going to be true currently, but they're going to need to talk to somebody, because if you have an anthropology major who's in an anthropology class who is electing to take that as pass, no pass, if it's an option, whether it's an option or not, they need to know that a UC may not take that as a transfer, right? So there's going to be a mechanism that triggers. What's going to happen is folks who have expertise in transfer and in financial aid will automatically review that student's plan and their transcripts, I believe, and then reach out to the student in the event that the student needs to be spoken with.
Just really quick, where are those forms available for students?
I got it via an email. So Armando?
So this form will be available online to students as soon as it's approved today.
Will they go to like the admissions and records website?
Oh, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Admissions and records website. Okay, if it gets approved, thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Stevens, I believe you had your hand up.
Yes. Will students have to do this form and the special circumstance petition, or just this form?
Good question. No, just this form. There is a EW form that's available to students throughout the year. This one's specific to fall 2020. So the other forms will be removed from the website to minimize confusion.
Thank you. That helps. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I know that this is not what the Academic Senate wanted, but I did ask you if I was authorized to make decisions on your behalf, given the information that I had at the time that decisions were being made. And my overarching goal was to, while showing students sympathy, not harm them inadvertently, or to allow them to inadvertently harm themselves as far as their grades are concerned. And so this is where we landed. Okay. I imagine we will revisit this in winter. We won't be convened as a body. My sense is, and no conversations have started, my sense is this is exactly the process that's going to roll over for winter. And probably spring, but by spring we'll be able to convene and talk about it again if you would like. Okay. The time is up if you heard the noise. For this item, if somebody wants to continue the conversation and extend, that is your prerogative. Otherwise, we will move on to the next item. Not seeing any desire to continue with this, we will move on to the next item. There it is. And the next item is, oh, that's not the next item. I'm just going to stop the share. We've got 10 minutes for Academic Senate goals. Oh, you know what? I do want to share that. I'm still doing a great job, folks. We have on our agenda each meeting now our Academic Senate goals, which have the correct date, and our norms have the correct date, all of that stuff. And what we did last time was we had folks indicate interest in any of these areas. And we had takers for the first 4 goals, but not the 5th, the develop an anti-racist policy. So I'm going to bring this up again and ask if anybody is interested in working on developing an anti-racist policy under which the Academic Senate will operate. Not seeing any hands, totally get it. Then what I'm going to do is on the next agenda, I'm going to recommend that we remove this as a goal. It would require a 2/3 majority. Discussion can be held, but if we aren't going to take it up, then we shouldn't have it as a goal. I believe that part of this has actually already been met because we have approved the guiding questions, or we have adopted the guiding questions through which we're going to look at board policies and administrative procedures. So it's not that we don't care about it, but I'm just looking at what's going on here. What I wanted to do with this agenda item today, aside from that, was ask if anybody has any reports yet. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but if anybody has anything they want to share out, then you can go ahead. And after that, we have one Senate representative who wanted to share out on this as well. So anybody who decided to take up any of these things, what I can say is I'm thrilled that we had several Senate subcommittees report out, and I've been getting regular reports from campus-wide committees, and so this is actually happening. It just took, it seems to have taken just a bit of persistence, and specifically reaching out to committees that I hadn't heard from. And I know Veronica's been reaching out to the Senate subcommittee chairs. So I think that's doing okay. Incorporating equity and social justice. Outcomes Committee is going to get started with their work. We're going to hear some stuff about social justice outcomes as soon as all the members are going to be present. So those things are kind of in the works. Any information anybody wants to share about the other items? Bevel.
Yes, earlier in my report, I did share some of the information, but we did have one preliminary meeting in terms of achieving our Senate goal as it pertains to the reputation of PCC in the African American community and increasing the population. And just from that meeting and from the information that was shared today and so forth, it seems like we need a unified recruitment program that uses the resources of the outreach team, resources from UGMA, resources from Upward Bound, from the Freeman Center. Because again, the goal of increasing the African American student population should not just be invested within UGMA, but should be a campus-wide initiative. So I would be trying to see how we can get individuals from each one of these entities together and to work on a recruitment program that is supported by PCC overall.
Cool. I love it. Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Fiebig.
So hi, everyone. Really quickly, one of the positives that I have found with COVID is that we can attend virtual conferences. So last week, I practically lived in 2 virtual conferences, and one was really interesting. And I shared this with Matt, but I'll be sending an email out to the whole campus later today or tomorrow. There is a book that is out there that was highlighted as a must read for everyone. It's called From Equity Talk to Equity, From Equity Talk to Equity Walk. And it's really looking at racial justice in higher education. I was fortunate enough to be able to work with our fabulous library, and we have unlimited access to the book. So I'm going to be sending out a link to that. And then also on the last conference that I was at, a new book that just came out was about engaging virtual meetings. So this book we too have been able to get access to. And so it will help with everything from, Zoom meetings for 5 hours and make them more engaging to our classrooms and hopefully converting them on. So I will send all of this out later so everybody will have links to it. So I just wanted to update you all on that. Thanks.
Cool, thank you. Are there any further updates on the Academic Senate goals or any further discussion about the Academic Senate goals? Okay, then we will move on to the next item, which is report out. Let me stop the share here. Which is report outs about PCC's COVID response since spring. And I'm going to get ready to take some notes here. So as I said, in accreditation, the Accreditation Standing Committee, we talked about various areas from which we can get information about PCC's response. We have student services. I mean, we just talked about grading options. So grading options was, alternative grading options were brought up in spring. They're brought up repeatedly. C&I, of course, has done a tremendous amount of work. If there's any committee you want to respect on campus, it's curriculum and instruction. They've done a tremendous amount of work getting the temporary distance education addenda in and approved so that we are all in the good graces of the state of California to teach during this period. And that's, of course, and so to add to their workload, we're asking the co-chairs of C&I to write, something about that. The Academic Senate, though, and for just to make sure everyone knows what universe we're talking about, the Academic Senate includes every faculty member on campus. You all meet every 2 weeks as an Academic Senate board. It's a representative system. But the Academic Senate, so I have things that I can say. We converted our meetings to online. We're honoring the Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order, together with with Governor Newsom's executive order, we passed a resolution about the quality of education in spring. I know that folks stepped up to help each other navigate through Canvas and other online tools. This is your chance to tell, and I didn't prep you on this. I tried to explain in the agenda. Senate representatives report out about PCC's COVID response. Can you tell me things that you know that we did? And really, it's the faculty spin, not what student services did, not what Dr. DeJonis' office has done, or what Alex Buckelheit has issued out, but what we've done. Ken.
Sure. So I'd like to speak for a moment to what the library did in response. We moved our services entirely online. So the Slack that was created when the reference desk became unavailable was taken up with virtual consultation appointments, for which we've all made ourselves available. And we've had students creating appointments either by phone or on Zoom with us so that they can get research assistance. We've also developed a system for requesting and picking up our printed books, which were for a while hard to get a hold of. So students who need those can check them out for the semester. And finally, we expanded our other kinds of availability in terms of chat hours and in terms of checking and answering messages sent to us in all sorts of formats, including social media. So we really stepped up our online presence, including, I should say, our instruction sessions for faculty members who would normally have brought their classes in. We've been having sessions on Zoom that have worked out very well as a substitute.
Cool. All right, what else have we done, folks? I know we converted our support centers to online. Tutoring was converted to online. I have a feeling someone else is going to write to that, but I can mention it. This is your chance to brag, folks. Natural sciences, y'all did some lab checkout equipment, lab equipment checkout. Brian?
Sure, I'll talk.
Thank you.
The geology faculty got together in March when things started to go south. On our last faculty meeting, we had to plan on what we were going to do for lab work. The lab classes are the real problem. There's some classes that don't have labs that port over very well to distance education, but across the natural sciences, anything with a lab is very difficult. I can speak to what we did in geology. We collectively got together and made a whole bunch of videos as quickly as we could, because there's some literature and some tests that have been done where this has sort of worked. But geology is very much a hands-on science. So I'm very proud to say that the faculty all got together between March and this fall and spread out over the state of California and collected somewhere over 10,000 specimens of rocks that we were then able to distribute to our students this fall, so that they were able to have some rocks in hand. A video can only take you so far, but we live in such a geologically diverse landscape that we grabbed our sledgehammers and our field assistants and our 4x4s, and we headed out and smashed rocks and collected as much as we could. In the classroom, our students have access to 72 rocks, but in the sets that we were able to check out, we have somewhere in the ballpark of only about 25 or 26 or so. So it's a good supplement to what we have for videos, but I'm really glad to see everybody in our department band together and take an opportunity to get out to the field areas that they were capable of getting to in the midst of the pandemic and collect those rocks and then bring them in. And then we crushed them all with rock crushers and rock hammers. And our lab tech, Deb Delao, was very patient with getting them all packaged up and ready to pass out. So it was a Herculean task, but it was really neat to have everybody come together to put that together. And that was just geology. Chemistry is doing the same thing. biology is doing the same thing, physics is doing the same thing. The labs are the real challenge for us. And I'm really proud of my colleagues for being able to put that together under such short circumstances. So tip of the cap to all my geology faculty and all my natural sciences faculty. It's really proud to work with them to put this together under such short circumstances.
I cannot help myself. Sounds like you're working with a bunch of rock stars. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Geologists rock. I'm sorry. Tim. You're muted. Tim, we don't hear you. I don't know what it is. You're not muted in Zoom. It may be in your system settings. We'll come, well, there are no other hands. But while Tim is working on his audio, now, sometimes when that happens to me, I click on the little arrow next to the microphone, and then I click it as for microphone, same as system. But we will go ahead and move on to Sylvia.
Thank you everyone. So I'm speaking for the design and fine arts and studio courses. So we came together and we quickly went, as everybody else, online. But for our subject matters, it was that relies on lab. It was really about creating all this instructional video. So it was a lot of work that needed to happen very fast. We collaborated, we shared the experience, we shared the technology we were using. We tried to find what was the most efficient methodology to get our students engaged. But it was a really push for creativity and content that needed to be produced, because there is not that much out there that is already pre-formatted for our subjects. In my area in design media art, we also partner with information technology services, and we were able to get some of our software to be accessible remotely. So the students that don't have very powerful computer, don't have access to these sometimes expensive and also process intensive application, they could use it remotely in their browser. So we're using this technology called Upstream 2.0, which allow the students, as I say, to check out software. Yeah, I think this is mostly how we reacted to the COVID situation in our area.
Well, thank you. Deandra. Well, let me check on Tim. Tim, are we here? Okay, Deandra.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk about the cosmetology department. Oh, is that's it?
Can we have a motion to extend?
Motion to extend by 3 minutes.
I second.
All right, so moved by Deandra, seconded by Dr. Stevens, to extend by 3 minutes. If there are no objections, we'll approve it by unanimous consent. That is approved. Go ahead.
Okay, so in the cosmetology department, we came together because we do not have very much of anything that is out for us to teach remotely, especially because we're very much so hands-on. So we created a lot of tutorials, as well as our students have to have a certain amount of hands-on experience, 1,600 hours to even be able to get their license. So we found a way to creatively do that to allow our program to continue with tutorials. A lot of us actually went ahead and got certified to teach online and just try to create different ways to show the students from videos. We are on Zoom all day. We're accessible to them as much as they need. And then we partnered with our textbook company, which is Milady, that had some online hair cutting virtual things, since we cannot be there to physically show them how to cut hair. So there was like virtual videos that we were able to get. So we just tried to make the best out of it. Like Professor Wilbur was saying, labs are definitely an issue because it is very hands-on, but we did our tutorials, we reached out, found resources, and we made ourselves very accessible to the students.
Cool. I'm really happy hearing all this stuff. Kyle.
Just unmute myself here. So the music department is part of the performing arts. One of our big challenges was getting instruments out to the students. So we were able to set that up near the beginning of the semester to allow the students to come in at a predetermined assigned time, be able to check out instruments so they could do their lessons. Our music lab is offering tutoring online, and a lot of the professors are volunteering times to do shifts on there for students to come on and meet with music professors. And also on Wednesday nights, they're holding a forum there with guest lecturers, guest artists to come on and talk to the students about various career aspects and within the field of music. It may not be well known, but it's going to be known pretty quickly here that the marching band is actually meeting live face-to-face starting Friday. We are going to be doing a performance for the Turner Roses television broadcast they're going to be doing on the 1st, and they're taping it next week at the Rose Bowl. So we have 65 students that will be meeting. They're all getting COVID tested tomorrow. We've set it up for all this. It's been quite an ordeal to make this happen, but at the request of the Turner Roses, that we're going to be representing the college as part of the opening production of that. So by the next time we meet, that'll be over with, and so that's part of what we're doing. But it's quite an experiment to be able to make this happen. We'll be on campus 3 or 4 days only, at very limited time, spread out, and trying to make sure that we're, obviously all the protocols are met. I've been COVID compliance trained along with my staff. It's been quite an ordeal, but it's been well worth it. So I want to make that announcement because we're starting to actually have a band on campus for a couple of days and then back to being remote. But it's exciting to see this happen.
People will make things happen. That's what I'm hearing. So because of the technical difficulties, I'm going to ask Tim to go ahead and shoot me an email. Unless, are you possibly up? No, we still don't have anything. Okay, so go ahead, please, if you would, shoot me an email, just something brief telling me what's going on in English. Thank you, everybody, for the shared out. This is, you're helping me do this work. And what I'll do is I'll do my best to represent you in a paragraph or 2 or 3 with the accreditation committee and with the accreditation visiting team. That said, we are now on to the next item, for which we have 10 minutes again. And the next item is a continuation of a conversation that we started last meeting. There was an opinion issued by someone in the chancellor's office, I don't know, legal counsel for the state. And the thrust of the legal opinion is that it's not illegal to require students to turn their cameras on. However, there are privacy issues. This conversation is not the result, it's not in response to anything that's occurring on our campus. It's in response to this legal opinion and the thought that we should have something on paper regarding expectations that instructors can possess and communicate to their students regarding the use of cameras. I spoke with the executive committee and I thought about maybe drafting a few versions of the statement, but we decided that we just want to hear from the academic senate and let you do this work of representing the will of the Senate through a statement that we develop here. So if you were here last meeting, you know what this is about. If you have any questions, please shoot. If you have any opinions, now is the time. So I see that there are only 20. Oh, not everyone has a green check marked in the participants window. Because I see you. If you're a Senate rep or an alternate representing your division, please click on the green yes. Now, I just asked 29 educators if you have an opinion. I know y'all do. Professor Endor. Gita?
Working on it.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe harder today. Tim and I are having the same issues. It occurs to me that at least on my campus, that we haven't told students how to use backdrops, and maybe they would like some education in that so that privacy isn't so much of an issue for them if they can block out what's happening in the rest of their environment.
That is true. I will say that they have to have a computer that's powerful enough. Like for instance, if it's an Apple computer, it has to have at least 4 processors in order to have the virtual background. So it has to be a fairly recent machine and a fairly powerful machine. And I think that that's likely a barrier for a lot of folks, but it can be of use for students, some students who have the technology. But thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, just reading the opinion, I mean, the two things that hit me are FERPTA, which is Family Educational Rights and the Privacy Act. And the Supreme Court has ruled basically that if we make a recording, that is part of the student record, and it could be considered protected by that. So to make a camera not optional, I think, you know, it doesn't, we don't know if it's gonna be something that we can be sued over, but I think it is something that definitely is consideration. And the other one that we didn't really cover last week was the American Disabilities Act. Definitely, if someone is suffering from a disability that interferes with a major life activity, such as going to school, and the only way they feel comfortable to go to school is by having the camera off, that is a clear violation of the American Disabilities Act, if that were the case. But we don't know. And some students are so shy, they're afraid to tell us this. I actually had a student who I met with them privately, and it took 30 minutes before they would turn on their camera. And I wouldn't make them. I just said, if you want to, you can. And then magically they turned it on. But I don't think we really, I think we're going down a slippery slope if we make it not optional. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you. Bevel?
Yes, I would just reiterate what I had to say on this issue the last time. And I think it's a bit contradictory to ask students to have their cameras on when we sit in this meeting right now and we have senators who have their camera off. I definitely support encouraging students to put their camera on, but I think making it a requirement is a bit contradictory. We should not be asking students to do things that we, at times, you know, can't do ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah, I will weigh in on that. I totally get where you're coming from, and it makes sense. I will say that this is a slightly different forum, and I'll tell you how. This meeting is broadcast on YouTube. Anybody with that link can look into our homes. And so it's not quite the same as a protected classroom. However, your point is well taken, I think. Okay. Next up, we have Lyman.
Yeah, there's nothing I would love more than to be able to see my students, for sure. You know, it's really disheartening. Sometimes I feel like I'm just yelling at the void, right into the void. But that having been said, I'm getting more participation from students who I think feel more comfortable with their cameras off. I do note that when they come to see me in conference hours, they always have their cameras on. And I don't know what the deal is, but they seem to be comfortable when it's one-on-one, right? I mean, usually one-on-one. I mean, every now and then, you know, maybe 2 or 3 people there, but they seem to have no problem with their cameras on then, but they really don't seem to want them on during class. And anything that comes in between, anything that might cause someone to participate less is a bad idea in my eyes. So when I first started teaching synchronous, I was like, you need your cameras on, and then I just threw that right out the window pretty quickly. So I don't think it's a good idea to require people to have their cameras on.
Okay, thank you. I see that there's a queue of folks with their hands up, a lot of blue hands. This is actually invigorating to me. I'm going to ask, is anybody on the other side of this? Professor or Susan, Susan, and then so now I'll take a page out of the State Senate's handbook, and I'll try to go back and forth, pro and con. So Susan.
So on the other side, the meeting we had 2 weeks ago, I think the motion that was made was to not require the camera to be on during synchronous sessions, but to allow for faculty members to require it for assessment. So with that in mind, we in the natural sciences opened this up to our colleagues, and we do have a number of colleagues who use Proctorio and feel very strongly that that is important for them to do their job of evaluating students and knowing that the students that they're evaluating are in fact their students. And I would like to represent that opinion, that if we're looking at requiring during a synchronous session across the board, my colleagues didn't seem to feel that that was something we should be requiring, but for assessments, it really makes a big difference in allowing us to evaluate our students' work.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go with Donna, and then Deandra, because Deandra, you're on the opposing. Okay, so Donna.
So I don't know what side do you think I'm on, Matt. I'm sorry, but
I want to be fair in all this. There have been several statements made in opposition to allowing instructors to require camera use, and so I asked, was anybody on the
has
other?
that been at all, like, because I was with Susan that last week we had already made this motion about nobody, I don't think, was saying, oh, we should make it required during synchronous class sessions. I don't think anyone was ever saying that.
I don't know if they were either. And last week time ran out before, or we postponed the motion. I wanted to give anybody an opportunity who felt, yes, we should be able to require camera use to voice their opinion.
Well, then I mean, I would like to be able to require camera use, as Susan had said.
Then you'll have to go after Tallene.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Tallene.
Sorry, I will turn on my video for this. I will speak on behalf of counselors because I got their feedback. So this isn't just my opinion, it's also the opinion of counselors. Overall,
we need a motion to extend, actually.
I motion.
I so move 5 minutes.
Wait, well,
second.
Tallene started saying I motion.
5 minutes, please.
5 minutes.
I second that.
Okay, so moved by Tallene, seconded by.
We're gonna need more than 5.
A 5-minute extension. If
Can I
any
go back and say 10 minutes? Because everybody's telling me 10. Is that allowed?
Yeah. 10 minutes?
Yeah.
That one too.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Then the motion is to extend by 10 minutes, moved by Tallene, seconded by Lyman. And if there's no objections, that's approved by unanimous consent. It is approved. We have 10 minutes. Go ahead, Professor Seropian.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know Robert's rules. Okay, so I asked the counselors and they gave me feedback, so I'm not just necessarily speaking for myself. Overall, the consensus was that we should not make it mandatory, however, incredibly encouraged. I noticed that 2 of the counselors that replied to me are the ones that heavily teach more than a lot of us, so they definitely see the value in it, which I also understand. However, they did say highly encouraged rather than forced. because of the nature of what's happening. I know I actually really liked what Professor Constantine mentioned. If we turn off our cameras, what's the difference? I understand what was mentioned by Professor Hennis regarding the fact that this is posted live on our website, but recorded sessions are posted on Canvas. Students can be very savvy and do a screen grab. And so there are privacy issues even regarding that. So I think that might debunk that one a little bit. Is maybe not on the website, but it could be shared, very much so. And I know that it was mentioned that in office hours, sometimes students are more comfortable doing so. However, in many counseling appointments, we're learning that students still don't prefer turning on their cameras. They like virtual appointments because of screen share. They just don't feel comfortable until they build relationships. So perhaps they do in your class because they have they have time with you. So that makes sense rather than maybe a one-time appointment. Suggestions were made, including like consistent polls during the class to show participation, if that's a concern. Small group, submitting really quick reflective things in the chat that's part of perhaps grading that shows that they're active. Regarding cheating, even if the camera's on, students have gotten so savvy to cheat. So perhaps Proctorio or other things. Also in Canvas, there are opportunities for timed quizzes or tests. The idea to do more and more reflective or like long answer, short answer, rather than true or false. That's it.
Well, you squeezed that in. All right, cool. Okay, so if I remember now, the order, Donna, had you made your statement or did I?
No,
Wait.
I would still like to say something.
Okay, so Deandra, Donna's hand had been up in the thing before you. I just saw your hand up first as being in favor of allowing to require. We will get to you. Go ahead, Donna. Donna?
So I think last week I want to second what Susan said about, I would feel the need to have some sort of a visual thing of the student during an assessment. Synchronous, I'm totally for highly encouraging. And I think if you read the legal opinion, it talks about balancing students' privacies with academic freedom. And it allowed for that fact that it said that, during classes, yes, we can do the chat, we can have, groups, small groups, whatever. There are different ways to get students engaged during a synchronous class, that our the right to privacy kind of overrides the academic freedom in terms of how we teach our class. But it did allow for the fact of, in some instances. And so I think with Proctorio, it's not that other students are seeing the recording. It's, an individual student, and I can go and view that recording. I'm the only one that gets access to that. And so I would support that. And I feel I don't think here's the time for that. I'm concerned that the student taking my assessment I'm just concerned the student taking my class is the student that's enrolled, because we've had some trouble with that. Major trouble. Thank you.
Thank you. And the much awaited Deandra. Thank you for
Okay, so no worries. So for cosmetology, if we don't require them to turn on their cameras, we cannot see anything that they're doing. And they are working with chemicals, they are working with shears that normally they are working under our insurance and a licensed professional that they are now at home doing. And so without us saying you must turn your camera on, there is no way for us to assess. In about 80, I wouldn't even say 80, 90% of our classes are hands-on assessments. It is hands-on working on not a person, a mannequin. So if their hair falls off, it's fine. But if I can't see that, I don't know how I could teach them in that department, which is why it is something that, we tell them, if you would like to be graded and get your 1,600 hours, you have to be visible, because under normal circumstances, they would be working under a licensed professional. And that is a requirement of the California State Board for us to watch them do this physical assessment or physical work, no matter what it is. And so we probably do like 2 hours of lecture, and then the rest, the students would be in class Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 4:45. And they would do 2 hours of lecture, and the rest would be in salon, hands-on. And so we have found a way to do that to keep the program running. But if they don't show their camera, I don't see how they would be able to pass their California State Board. They may be able to get an A at PCC, but they wouldn't be able to get their license, which is the ultimate goal. So that's why I'm for requiring it. And I know we're kind of a special department in that, but I mean, we need to see them.
Okay, so I've got a couple of ideas here. One of them is, it's in the scenarios you described, and this is for you, Deandra. Is there any issue with them having their cameras off for those 2 hours of lecture, but then having to turn it on while the students are doing performance? Because I mean, that sounds to me like that performance is assessment. They're forms of assessment. So in terms of kind of like a more blanket policy, would it work for you if they're required, if instructors can require camera use during assessment times, but then it's frowned upon to require students to have their cameras on during lecture?
So during lecture, we're fine with it. We usually don't really do that, but like I said, lecture is really short for us.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like when students see that I can't require them like without reading fully everything, then I'm going to get that pushback then I have to explain what's going on.
Gotcha. I will say that I did, and I see the hands up, I will say that I did have a conversation with somebody recently that shed light on this. The individual was running completely asynchronous classes, but it was American Sign Language. And if students are going to be using American Sign Language, there's got to be a camera involved, right? So it just underscores some of the difficulty with a blanket policy, but I think we could still, maybe it's something like if an instructor wants to require it, then they can work in consultation with their dean. Oh, I saw some looks on there, some faces there. I think, yeah, I can tell. It's Tallene and then Brian.
Just to go to what was said about cosmetology, I mean, I think that's fair, but I think in cases like that, it needs to be upfront and a statement has to be made at time of registration so that students are aware of it. Because this is now a safety issue, it's a licensing issue, an insurance issue for in this case, for instance. If it's going to be done, I think they just have to know, because that might deter them either from taking it or to make arrangements or to have a conversation beforehand. I mean, that's just something to consider, and it might have to be case by case for, like, I don't know, welding. What's welding doing? Are they, I'm thinking about things like that. So if it's going to have to be done for very special reasons, then just a statement that really enforces it. And it can't be hidden. It can't be in the notes. You know how like if you click a CRN, it has all those, students don't look at that. So it has to be really out there for them, or maybe they get a follow-up email or something.
Okay. Brian.
Question for Professor Pierce, just sort of hypothetical that I'm wondering about for myself and anybody else that's in a lab class. So let's say you put it in the notes, you put it in the syllabus. A student is aware that they have to have their camera on for assessment and they flatly refuse. Then what? Do we have the right to drop them from the class? Do we have the right to fail them? Will the school stand behind us?
I'm going to let Deandra respond, and then we're going to let time run out for this item, and we'll revisit it in 2 weeks. Wait, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So for cosmetology, there's like twofold. They need a grade and they need hours. So if they're not visible, then they don't get hours, which reflect they could pass the class, but that means that they can't take their state board. So for us, it's kind of like you can, okay, say you do the work and don't have your camera on, but I won't give you hours towards your 1600 hours, which means you won't be able to take state board, so you wouldn't be able to move forward. So that's kind of how we dealt with it, because we're not going to go back and forth, because there is nothing really saying that I can force them. We just tell them that way, and who would want to finish a program and not be able to get the end result. So that's kind of how we've dealt with it.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you everybody for your ideas. I ask that you once again go back to your constituents. I think next time I'd like to see some motions that would lead to some language that will probably be negotiated. No, I don't mean negotiated, that's union. That will probably be massaged a little bit in meetings with the administration, but we need to be able to express our voice. Donna, did you have something?
Earlier today, you mentioned like a forum or something. Is there a date on that, or?
A forum?
You know, for like faculty and students getting together to talk about.
Oh, this was about Proctorio. This was something in,
separate. Okay.
No, I emailed you about that before.
But you said today in the meeting today, you mentioned something, I thought.
No, what I mentioned in the, no, the thing about Proctorio is a small group of folks who are going to meet together. Had nothing to do with this agenda item.
Okay.
With today's agenda. But what does have to do with today's agenda, two things. One of them is BP 3050. I'm hoping that BP 3050 goes fairly quickly. So last time I sent out to you AP 3050, and then I was told during the meeting, wait, that was supposed to be BP, so that was totally my mistake. And the difference is BPs are board policies. They tend to be very short. APs are administrative procedures. They tend to be a little bit longer. You're going to see this with the juxtaposition of the two items, agenda items right now. Let me go ahead and set the timer. I don't think we'll need the 5 minutes. But this is the entire board policy on professional ethics of faculty. And the thing is, they need to be reviewed periodically. It has not been reviewed in 12 years. And so this is our review of this policy. It is the policy of the Pasadena Area Community College District that faculty members adhere to a code of professional ethics that includes responsibilities to their disciplines, to their students, to their colleagues, to their institution, and to their community. Faculty accused of violating the professional ethics of faculty policy and/or procedures shall be afforded appropriate due process, is how it used to end. Executive committee and I met and thought about, well, due process for what? To determine whether an ethics violation occurred seems to be a complete thought. This is here for our review. We can look at it now and decide if there's any language you want to change, or I can just bring it back in 2 weeks after you've looked at it and thought about it. Maybe you want to review AP 3050 to see what the result of such a finding would be. But this is just the board policy that points to an administrative procedure. Does anybody have any thoughts you want to share on this policy? Or yeah, policy. All right, then yes, Dr. Bernardo.
Hi, sorry, I'm just wondering, because the language here seems pretty vague. It says that includes responsibilities to their disciplines, to their students, to their colleagues, to their institution. Like what in specific are we owing our institution or our colleagues, for example? So I would think that doesn't it need to refer to a different document that says these in detail, so that basically if somebody wants to bring up a charge of ethics violations, so that there is a standard that we understand that we're measuring this against.
Well, I have a feeling it's probably in part intentionally vague, because the standards that you have to your discipline may vary by discipline. But what I'm trying to do is look up AP 3050, which I also have here. And so those details are in AP 3050. I'll just give you a brief glance at AP 3050 because at the beginning of it is what you're asking about. And it clarifies a little bit more: fair dealing, individual responsibility and accountability, respect for others, proprietary, performance of duty, use of college resources. So APs tend to have more details. Ethical responsibilities to your discipline is explained. Ethical responsibilities to their students is explained. So you're absolutely right. These statements aren't standalone in the BP, but they aren't intended to be in the BP. And that's why it points to Administrative Procedure 3050 for those things. Does that help?
Okay, so this document is referring to the other document for the specifics.
Yes.
Okay,
So
thank you.
the Board of Trustees looks at a 30,000 foot view. The AP is where the actual details are. The Board of Trustees does not look at administrative procedures. They charge the president of the college with developing those administrative procedures, and then this is part of that process of updating them. Gita.
I was wondering, is this a part of something where there are professional ethics of staff and professional ethics of administration?
Yes.
Thank you.
And this is coming to us because this is professional ethics of faculty, and we are the academic senate, which represents the faculty. So we wouldn't start revising the professional ethics of management. But if management revises their own policy, it comes to us through the shared governance process. I've lost my participant window, so I don't know the order. Donna.
So in the last sentence, when it says faculty accused of violating the professional ethics of faculty policy and/or procedures, is that the AP 3050?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I mean, this is the policy. So yeah, the policy is the BP, the procedure.
I'm with it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we have policies and we have procedures. Oh, damn. Terry.
Apologize for having you repeat this, but why are we doing this?
Periodic review. We should be looking at these every few years. The last time this was looked at was 2008. You may notice that coincidentally, this is an accreditation year, and we'd like as many of these dates to be current or recent as possible. And I see that you froze, and so I hope you got the answer. If not, I'll follow up with him by email. I'm being told by Tito, BP 3060 is management, BP 3070 is classified. We're gonna let that go. I'll just bring this back in 2 weeks. You'll let me know if you have any thoughts. Basically, if you approve the change proposed by the executive committee, and if you have any further thoughts about this, but I do encourage you, please, to review AP 3050, not so that we can change it, although if you see something glaring, then bring it to our attention, but so that you know what this works in conjunction with. Okay. Another hand has gone up. Donna?
You didn't want a motion for this one tonight, did I?
I want time to run out so we can get to the next thing.
Okay.
Because the next thing is a little bigger. And, oh, that's right. In the packet, it wasn't highlighted, but I know what I'm looking for here. I'm going to set the 10-minute timer. I'm bringing to you, so new agenda item. Next up on the agenda is AP 7210. This is the administrative procedure. So you can see it's several pages long. Academic employees, used to be called faculty hiring. And I'm bringing this to you for 2 reasons. I will tell you that the Faculty Hiring Priorities Committee is working on revising number 1, which is the process by which faculty request positions to be interviewed for. Like, when we fly positions, right? Like the prioritization that just occurred. We're looking at revising that timeline in various ways with the goal of getting our job flyers out earlier in the year than we currently do. For the reason that if our job flyers and interviews occur later than they do at other schools, we lose out. Good folks get hired elsewhere. So we'd like to adjust our timeline. And one of the ways that we might be able to do that is, it's number 3 here. It should be number 2 because it does follow number 1. This numbering is off. But this reads, once a position is authorized, then the job description is prepared. Let me tell you what this means. The prioritization committee meets after the 8th week, according to this AP, but we're going to be working on changing that. It was last week that we agreed on the prioritization. Let's pretend this is a normal year. In a normal year, after last week, departments are notified whether they get hires and how many they're going to be able to hire. This is almost mid-November. After that occurs, then the hiring committee convenes and prepares the job description. In some cases, that means a hiring committee has to be formed. They have to find the time to meet. Then they have to convene. We are now close to Thanksgiving. And then if that job flyer needs to be adjusted because there's a different focus or because we are including more equity-minded statements or whatever it is, then in years when we fly 46 positions, like we did, I think last year, all those need to be updated by HR before they can finally be flown, which we hope happens before we go to winter break. We'd like to move this entire process back by maybe 4 weeks. So here's the question I have for you. The first question I have regarding this AP. Does anybody have a problem with moving the portion that describes preparing the job description to occurring before a committee is chosen by the department? One of the thoughts in the committee, in the Faculty Hiring Priorities Committee, was the folks who put together the job request, maybe they're the ones who tweak the job announcement. It should be a department effort anyway. The drawback there is we could have job announcements that are updated for positions that are never flown because they don't end up high on the prioritization list. Or it can happen earlier than the hiring committees are formed. It can happen at any time. So the question I have is, let me put it this way. Does anybody object to the prioritization committee moving this process to earlier in the AP? Okay, not seeing any hands, then what I'm going to do with that is, now I see a hand. Donna.
So when you say earlier in the process, I mean, this isn't necessary. So you're saying before it's even authorized, because this is saying
Yes.
Once a position is authorized, this happens.
Yes. I'm asking if it's okay for the Faculty Hiring Priorities Committee to write language here that would make it so that if they wanted to, areas could fly their or alter their job descriptions, their job flyers before the positions are authorized. Yeah.
Because the way I read this, this committee that it's talking about in the highlighted part is not necessarily the same hiring committee, though, as down below.
That's true.
So, and I was years ago, part of one committee that worked on this, and that was kind of surprising to me because in the math division, we always made it that way, but people were saying, no, it doesn't have to be. This is not that committee that's mentioned down in number, what is it, 4? I think I have it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually there's, yeah, you're right.
But if you are thinking of having it be before the position is even authorized, they're just like, what's the word when we apply, say we request it. I'm totally for that. I think that would be fine.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be the hiring committee.
Right. And I actually didn't realize that until like a week or two ago when I was rereading this, and I was like, wait a minute, it doesn't say the hiring committee. So what it could be something as simple as we could strike this. We could strike the once the position is authorized, but I don't want to get into those details. I'll let the committee, the FA Faculty Hiring Priorities Committee, I'll let them do the work on this. Well, I'll lead them through the work on this. And then it will come back to you. I mean, this AP is going to get worked on in several areas by several people. So I'll bring it back to you before it gets approved or anything. I just wanted to know if anybody had an objection or anybody had a reason why it might not be a good idea. It doesn't sound like it. This will come back. Bevel, I think I know why your hand is up. Do I know why your hand is up?
I think so.
Okay, then that's the other thing that we're going to talk about here. Here we have selecting the hiring committee. And there's a statement here that says at least one of the voting members shall be from a historically underrepresented group. That's language that I'm bringing to you to recommend a change. This is language that is not going to go through the Faculty Hiring Priorities Committee because by this point, that committee has done their work. So, Bevel, what have you got to say?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to increase that number from 1 to 3.
You really shouldn't be so shy. All right. The motion has been made to change this language from at least 1 to 3. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
That was Dr. Bernardo. Okay, so moved by Professor Constantine, seconded by Dr. Bernardo. Discussion. Agita.
How many people are on the committee?
6. I believe it's 6.
So you're saying half should be from underrepresented.
Let me double check the count on this. The division dean is 1 person, normally serves as chair. 4 or more full-time faculty members, preferably tenured, 2 or more of whom shall be from the discipline. No more than 1 shall be from outside the discipline. So we're talking about 5 or more people.
So
at minimum
5 or more.
At minimum 5.
Yeah, that's kind of squishy because how do we know if 3 is a low number or a high number unless we know how many are on the committee?
Well, if
there are 20 on the committee, 3 is a low number.
Well, we're talking about lower bounds on these, and we're talking about faculty positions. I don't believe there have been more than 7 members on a committee before. Actually, I take that back. Maybe there have been. They tend to not be staffed by 20 people.
So you're saying this is not like the Supreme Court might be?
I'm not going to touch the Supreme Court.
Okay.
I think Brian's next. No, wait. Yes, Brian is next.
The numbers don't work out for us if we were to make a geology hire. If we had to have 1 person from outside, and then we've got our dean, and then you've got all of our geology faculty, just 3 won't work. It just means that we can't do a hire. Numbers don't work out.
So you're not required to have 1 person from the outside. That bit's optional. But can you elaborate on the reason why that might not work out?
Well, all of our geologists are white and our dean is white.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Veronica.
So I'm on the same wavelength as Brian. As being part of the natural sciences, there's only a few of us that are from underrepresented areas. So I end up doing a lot of the positioning to be that 1 person. So I don't think we have the numbers to really do 3. So to require it just isn't really possible for most of our departments in the natural sciences.
Okay, thank you for that. The time has just run out. So is there a motion to extend?
I move to extend by 10 minutes.
Second.
So the motion is to extend by 10 minutes. This and it is seconded by Professor Endor. Because of what time it is, I'm going to actually do a roll call vote. This will require a 2/3 majority. And so I will just say your last names and please give me a yes, no, or abstain. Richard Allen? Or
Oh, wait, Matt. Before we do that, would we take this up and be one of our things next time at the Senate for another 10 minutes? Or are we saying that we won't be talking about it anymore?
Oh, it would come back next time.
So it'll come back next time. We just aren't finishing it today.
Yes, this is just a motion to extend right now. This item is not going to go away. We're going to decide on it at some point.
Okay.
So we'll call that a point of information.
Clarification. Thank you.
Yeah. So Alan, no, Bernardo. So again, the motion is to extend by 10 minutes. Yes, no, or abstain, please. Bernardo.
Yes.
Bauer.
Sorry, yes.
Cairo is not here. Castro.
Yes.
Chafee.
Yes.
Constantine.
Yes.
Endor.
Yes.
Vivek.
No.
Foster. Francoso is not here. Garson.
Yes.
Hanley, it does not vote. Blanca, Hernandez.
Yes.
Jaramillo.
Yes.
Jerome. I thought I saw them here and there. Keen, I have not seen at all today. Larson.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Leon.
Yes.
Luck.
Yes.
Milnarek. Oh, Milnarek's having issues. We're going to call him abstain. Nordstrom.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Ragone.
Yes.
And Jerome did say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to get out of this, but now I have to finish. Rose.
Yes.
All right. Ruiz.
Yes.
Seropian.
Yes.
Simon.
No.
All right. Stevens.
Yes.
Yes.
Stoddard is having, I think, technical issues, and so we'll say abstain. Swaminathan.
Yes.
Andrasco.
Yes.
Vento. And Walker is not here. Wilbur.
Yes.
Winter.
Yes.
See, now y'all only have 20 green checks, but I had 27 vote just now. Melnar, can we hear from you? Oh, cool. He had a thumbs up, yes. All right, cool. Are there any alternates representing your divisions right now?
Jeff.
Oh, Baja, okay. Or Baja, excuse me. So Baja, yes, no?
Yes.
Okay, that is, are there any other alternates?
Miriam. Yes.
Miriam is yes. Okay, any other alternates? Well, look at that. We took roll anyway. Then that is 28 yeses and 2 noes, and I called 1 abstain. That motion carries. We are extended by 10 minutes.
Matt, can I speak to the motion?
If you were next. You can, wait, you mean the motion?
I made a motion, but I didn't get a chance.
You can speak to the motion that you made. Oh, you haven't spoken to the motion at all. Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the fact that we have faculty who are basically admitting that there are no historically underrepresented people within their department also proves why we need to change the makeup of the hiring committees. If hiring committees do not reflect ethnic diversity, then we as historically underrepresented faculty would never be hired. We had an issue in our Senate where we were trying to get individuals on the hiring committee for the VP of instruction. And the list that was going to go through had no African representation. We stopped it, we got nominations from the floor, and the people who were elected to serve on that committee, 2 of them were African American. And I think it shows clearly that in order for us to have ethnic diversity at PCC, which in itself is a problem, this is one of the ways that we begin, is by ensuring that all hiring committees have this ethnic diversity. And I propose if you can't find someone historically underrepresented within your department, then I think you should go to another department and find a full-time faculty member who is historically underrepresented and have them fill the void of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Wilbur.
The problem isn't the school. The problem is admittedly part of the association with geology. I mentioned geology earlier. Yeah, we don't have a lot of representation in geology. That is a longstanding problem. But I'd like to think that the Senate and the school can have faith in the equity mindedness of the faculty that would be on that committee, regardless of their ethnicity or race. I'd like to think that I could be equity minded regardless. I stopped short on taking umbrage with that comment, but I like to think that we could still make a good and just decision regardless.
Thank you. Veronica.
I was just going to say, we do that, right? We do have one member from an underrepresented group be on our hiring committees. I am on a lot of natural science hiring committees, and I was hired by an all-white committee. So I do think it's possible to be hired. I agree with Brian that I think really the problem is not the committee, but our advertisement. I've been on hiring committees for the last 15 years, both at ELAC and here, and I can count the number of African American. I don't even think I've seen one. And I've hired almost, I would say, 12 chemists in my career. And so I think we should be advertising much better than we do.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Bernardo.
Hi. So, oh, sorry, maybe I'll put this on. So I was listening to, I forgot now who was just saying that, but, and they were saying that they would hope that people in their department are even-minded and have judgment enough to be able to select a person from one of these historically underrepresented groups. But if that were the case, up until now, and most of the people have not been from those underrepresented groups, as Professor Constantine, I think, was alluding to, then wouldn't we see more diversity? And I do think that it might have some something to do with, one, the university's reputation within these communities, and two, whether or not the advertising sort of reaches the, I don't want to say keywords, but there are certain things that people look for when applying to jobs or when applying to different organizations that might indicate their receptivity to diversity or other or underrepresented groups. And so I think that there's a problem with all of it, but I do believe that actually having these at least 3 places set aside would do more to further the actual goal, which would be diversity.
Thank you. Susan.
I just wanted to support what my colleagues are saying in natural sciences. Over the last 22 years, I've served on geology committees for hiring as well as chemistry. And the problem is in the pool. It's not in the people who are being selected as the individuals we're hiring. So I don't want us to get off track on that. We're trying to figure out how to draw more students into natural sciences who are from underrepresented groups. And I think that's really where we need to focus this attention rather than bringing people in from other departments who are not going to be well versed to speak to what areas a particular division is or department is looking for in terms of preparing their students well. So I just want to make sure we're being careful here. Having served on these committees, I don't think the issue is with the folks that we're placing on the committees. It's really in the diversity of the pools that we're bringing in.
Thank you. I see there are various names here. I've got to go with ones who haven't spoken yet first, and that means Dr. Stevens.
Hello. I would like to know, what are we doing now where it says at least one voting member shall be? So for the example that we just had, if it's all one group, one race, things of that nature, what are we currently doing in place?
Well, I'll tell you one of the ways, so it's historically underrepresented group as defined by our human resources, which includes African American, Asian Pacific Islanders, Latinx, and women. And so if a hiring committee has one woman on it, they are satisfying this AP currently of any ethnicity. Now,
okay, got it.
there are areas where folks are saying, where women are saying, I don't consider myself to be from a historically underrepresented group. That is not in keeping with the spirit of this AP. And so in areas where there is very limited ethnic diversity among the faculty, they would bring in somebody from another department, somebody from another discipline, to ensure that the candidates don't come in and just see a bunch of white faces.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the dual answer.
Okay.
I am quoting, by the way, one of my colleagues, one of my women, female colleagues, in saying, I don't consider women to be historically underrepresented. This is not what is meant by this. Okay. Now we can hear from folks twice after everybody else who wishes to speak has spoken. So does anybody who hasn't yet spoken care to speak? Then we will go in order here. Okay, Dr. Bernardo.
I just sort of wanted to, I guess, reply to what Professor Bauer said, saying that I think she was asserting that there was nothing wrong with the people that were on the hiring team, but the problem is in the pool of people who are interviewing or applying to the job. And I just think that that's a fallacious argument, that if there are any other divisions in any other institution that have equal or sufficient representation from underrepresented groups, then it means that it is possible, and that it means that I believe PCC is not fulfilling the objective, which is diversity. And we have to figure out whether assigning more people to the hiring committees and designating them there will have an effect on this representation of diversity in hiring. It just seems obvious to me.
Okay. We have, I believe, heard from everybody who has their hand up, so I'll just go in order. Bevel.
This is very important. We had a Black Lives Matter movement. This is part of the Black Lives Matter movement. We're screaming for representation. We're screaming for ethnic diversity in all sectors, from the Board of Trustees, to the administrators, to the deans, to the faculty, to the staff, to the students. And one of the main ways we can increase ethnic diversity within faculty is to make sure that the committee that is hiring faculty is ethnically diverse. And so this is one of the, and I'm not trying to go against, you're one of my colleagues. I don't want to go against anyone, but please understand where it's coming from. We've been pleading for diversity in the US for years and years. And this is one of the ways to support ethnic diversity, because when we walk into that room to be interviewed, we need to see people that look like us as well as other people. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you heard, time ran out during that comment. According to our rules, you could extend again. It is 5:20 or 5:21. It's up to you what we do, but this will come back.
Motion to extend 5 minutes.
Okay, so it's been I had a feeling that's why your hand was up. I should have recognized you, but I get it. It's difficult in this situation. Motion to extend by 5 minutes made by Lindsay Ruiz. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Who was that?
Raja.
Yeah, in another 2 seconds, I would have had it. All right, so moved by Lindsay Ruiz, seconded by Jeff Baja to move or to extend by 5 minutes. Is there any objection to approving by unanimous consent? Not seeing any new hands, that motion carries by unanimous consent. And then we are down to now Brian.
Really quick, I think
I'm sorry, I take this back. Lindsay, did you have your hand up just to?
I do.
Motion?
No, I have my hand up. I'd like to comment.
Since you haven't spoken, you get to comment.
Thank you. I think that this is an important moment as senators that we need to listen, and I think that we need to consider options for expanding our hiring committees. And so if we don't have, I mean, I don't want to get into numbers and percentages, but if we do not have, because of the department, adequate representation, then we need to find that representation, even if it means going to other departments. That is critical. I think it needs to be a priority. So if we don't have the racial diversity, we find it. And even if that means going elsewhere, I think that's critically important that we hear what our colleagues are telling us, because we clearly do have a problem. Thank you.
Thanks. And then I've got to go with folks who haven't yet spoken. So Tolleen.
Honestly, Professor Ruiz just said what I was about to say. We need to listen. It's being asked. There's a need. We can get creative. This isn't something at this point we should push back on. I think it's time to rethink our practices and find a way to really to come together as a collective campus to find people that will volunteer and represent, because it's not working. And I think there is something to be said about walking into a room of people that look like you, whether it's gender, race, ethnicity, anything, to feel slightly more comfortable in one of the most high stakes times of your life, which is trying to find a solid job. So this is not something we should be fighting about or pushing back on. Let's just figure out it and let's just do it.
Thank you. Ken.
Sure. So I'm not ready to make a motion to amend the motion, but I'm thinking about how that can happen, because we don't want to lose subject area representation on a hiring committee. Is there a way to put into the language that when we need to add to a committee to have it include underrepresented people, that those people are added as an expansion of the committee, so that the department can still have enough representation who are familiar with the subject area?
Thank you. Okay. I lost the hand. Where was it? Okay. You must have put your hand down. There was a new hand that I saw, but we're going to go with Lyman.
Is it possible that to make things so being on a hiring committee is a massive amount of work, as we all know, right? I'm assuming most people here have been on hiring committees, and it's a lot of work, especially if you're in a department like English, right, where you have 200 applicants to read, et cetera. Would it be possible that we could, if we wanted to increase the diversity on the committee, and there's only X number of faculty that could do that, we'd be putting an enormous burden on them. Is there a way that the people who are reading the applications, does it always have to be the exact same set of people that are doing all of the reading and all of the then evaluating at the other stage? I mean, could we rethink the whole process a little bit so that we could increase the number of people who are not necessarily, if there's only so many people who are going to be asked to be on every committee, then there's just no way, right? There's just, that's just too much work for any one person or for any small group of people, because there is some way that we could ameliorate that. And I don't have any ideas. I'm just asking.
I think it's a good question. Excuse me, I'm supposed to be neutral. We're back to Bevel. You got 20 seconds, bro.
I'm just asking senators to give us a chance, give us an equal opportunity. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for special treatment as people from the African diaspora. We're just asking to be treated fairly and to have an equal shot at employment. Thank you.
Time is up and we are out of extensions. So this will come back next time. I urge you to get in touch with your constituents so we can continue this conversation, okay?
Is there a motion on the floor? Is my motion still on the floor or no?
Your motion is still on the floor. So thank you for that essentially a point of order. I guess we need to either have a vote or a motion to postpone.
I move to postpone to the next meeting.
I second that.
Second.
I'm going to give the second. Who was the first one to second? Was it Dr. Stevens? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the motion to Ken Simon and then the second to Dr. Stevens. Is there any objection to approving the postponement till the next meeting by unanimous consent? Okay. Then by unanimous consent, that motion is carries. This will show up at the next agenda or on the next agenda. And yeah, we will revisit it. With that, we have concluded our agenda. Proposed future agenda items. You don't have to say this one, it's already there. Are there any other proposed future agenda items? Okay, so I'm going to clear everything now. And then if there are any proposed future agenda items, then, and I just muted everybody, so you'll have to unmute yourself, but go ahead, Bevel.
Yeah, Matt, I was just wondering if we would ever have time to discuss our readings, the books that we've chosen to read, and have a discussion of how does it influence our decisions that we make in the Senate.
Thanks for bringing that up. My thought was that I don't know how meaningful it would be to have that discussion during the next meeting. But what I was going to do at the next meeting was urge everybody to complete their reading over the winter break and then hit the ground running with those in spring.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I did have a plan. Thank you. So I'll just say readings here. And any other proposed future agenda items? All right. Any announcements? I know there's at least one.
I have an announcement.
Dr. Stevens.
Okay, so thank you so much. It was already sent out via email, but my group just really wanted me to share it again. So the DSPS announcement is that we're recognizing National Disability Awareness Month for November, and that we're putting on a couple of events. And one of the events is this week on Thursday. It's the Crip Camp movie, which will be played. And then there's also the DSPS student, staff, and faculty mixer, which is November 17th from 12 to 1. And then the accessibility workshop. So this one is specifically for us as faculty. It's going to be to help instructors make their courses accessible for the online environment. And that's going to be November 18th from 12 to 1. And like I said, the flyer and everything was emailed out. And thank you so much, Matt, for doing that.
You're welcome. I don't remember if it came from Academic Senate or from me. I know
it was from Academic Senate, but you guys are lumped together today.
I know one of them, I messed up on that. Okay, thank you. And there was another hand up and I lost where it was Tully.
Just kidding.
Okay, Tito, I know you want to make an announcement.
Sorry, Tito, before you announce, I just want to correct the Crip camp is tomorrow, November 10th. I'm so sorry. I just want to correct that date.
Not a problem. Tito.
No worries. Mine's actually on behalf of the Association of Latino Employees, of which I am the president as well. We're having our tamales sale again. That way, right before Thanksgiving break, y'all can pick them up on that Monday, the 23rd. last day to order is actually coming up very soon. I believe it's the end of this week. So pickup will be right before the next academic senate meeting on the 23rd from 12 to 3. So if you're able to make that time, we'll have it. Don't worry, contactless pickup and all that jazz. But again, it's for scholarship fundraising for students. So please help out if you can. Thank you.
Order by when?
I'm going to verify the date, but I'm pretty sure we need to put in the order by the 16th. So I'm pretty sure it's a few days before that. And Alex Buckelhide sent the email with the link.
So we'll say order by the end of this week.
That works. Thank you. Because
the 16th is Monday, and if you need time before. Okay. Any other announcements? Then it is time for us to adjourn. And where's my gavel? Here it is. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You did a great job, Matt.
Phenomenal the whole time, you know.
Well, of course you have to say that because I said it enough times myself.
I know.
Thank you.